and welcome into Cullman in the Morning. I'm Debbie Wood along with Mike Mullaney. Mike is here today. He is a founder and he's also president and CEO of Goat Island Brewing right here in our community, and it's always so good to see Mike. How are you?
I'm doing great.
Very
busy.
I know you're busy, and of course Mike has a full-time job, but also out in the community, but also you are one of the founders of Goat Island. How many years, Mike, has it been?
It will be 3 years in April.
3 in April. All right, now early on, we got to give everybody sort of a history. Say 4 years ago, everybody was raving about your brew and also Gary Typemiller's.
Right.
So you want to talk a little bit about Gary and the other guys real quick?
Sure. When I met Gary Typemiller, it was 2013. John Dean, one of our other founders, introduced us, and I didn't realize there was anyone else doing that type of brewing in Cullman. So immediately we struck up a friendship and really started talking seriously about a brewery. And so John Dean and Brad Glenn, my other partners, the four of us, as you know, we started brewing at the Blue Moose Cafe.
Yes, you did. In very confined, close quarters, I might say. And they would do this, I think you did it, every 6 weeks? You would make a new brew.
Right.
And it was so great to see the guys back there because you knew how good they were and that they got a talent. And to me, and I don't know that much about it, but just from the outside looking in, I've always said that it's an art.
It is.
To brew.
It's a science and an art. Yeah, it really is.
And so you've got to have that capability of being able to, it's not just something that you go and start dumping stuff in, but when you say a science, most of the time you use your computer, is that correct? To sort of.
Yes, we have to take meticulous notes because everything that happens, the recipes have to be adjusted if there's anything different. We're using agricultural products, and as you know, agricultural products change in their chemistry.
Sure.
So you have to use a little bit more or a little bit less depending on what you get in. So yeah. A lot to it.
So it changes, doesn't it? As you do, it changes. And let's talk just a little bit about Brad and John. Now, you guys have been lifelong friends. You actually went to school together, is that correct?
Yes, I think that Brad and John have known each other since maybe preschool. But
really?
I've known John since about the 3rd grade and Brad since the 5th grade. So.
See, that's so neat to be lifelong friends and then to do a business together. I think it's so neat. And Gary sort of got in the picture because of John. And let's talk about Gary just a little bit. He has an engineering background and
yes,
he's retired.
We always said that it doesn't take rocket science to brew beer, but we have a rocket scientist. So, but he started out as our original head brewmaster and got things going, and we won a lot of awards with Gary. And then we had Paul White come on, and Paul has learned everything that Gary knows, and Gary has retired out of that, and now he has started our new project, which is our wine.
Yes, and we got to talk about that. Gary is such a great winemaker, and I love the fact that his wife, Richie, helps him pick the grapes and washes them and does all that stuff.
Yes.
And so this started, you had to go through the process with the state of Alabama to get a license. So how did that work?
Well, when you get a brewing license in Alabama, in the state, you get all three. We actually have a license to distill and to do wine and beer, but we don't have that federally. So to get the ability to make wine federally, we had to get our TTB license from the federal government.
Okay.
And we got that, and so we just do small batch, just enough for the brewery, the tap room.
Don't sell it outside of the brewery?
We do not distribute it like we do with the beer.
Okay. Do you see that in the future of doing that, or do you hope to?
Possibly, but right now we have a tiger by the tail with all this beer. So right now we don't have any
extra time, do you?
Plans to distribute the wine, but who knows what we might do in the future.
That in the future. Let's go back and talk about Paul White a little bit. He's the head brewmaster there. And Gary, of course, all of you were instrumental in helping him get started, but Gary sort of taught him all that he knows. Paul has a degree in biology or microbiology?
Microbiology. I don't think he finished that, but he almost have a full degree in microbiology
from Auburn. Yeah.
And actually pre-pharmacy, I think, was his major too. So he's a very smart guy, and
yes.
He has really brought a lot of good things to the brewery. He made the dunkel. It was Gary's original recipe, but the recipe is only a very tiny part of it. It's the process that really makes the difference. And his dunkel that he submitted won a national award. We went to the Great American Beer Festival, and it got a silver medal. So basically,
what an honor.
We have the second best dunkel in the country.
In the country. And do you remember who the number one was and where they're located?
I don't remember the name. It was a smaller brewery, but the guy has a PhD in chemistry, and he's won the gold for about 5 or 6 times. So we had some stiff competition to get to number one.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah.
And in a small brewery also, and I think that's interesting because I would have thought it would have been one of those big companies or something.
No.
So those are the folks, and we'll talk more about that in our second segment, but those are the folks that have really, there's such a process, I don't think the community realizes that, but such a process to go through and get licensed, not only by the state but by the federal government, like you were saying. A lot of those big companies, I think when this first started, the wave of small craft breweries, brewing companies throughout the community or throughout the country, I don't think they particularly liked it. Is that correct?
That's very true. The big consolidated breweries have lost about 20% of their market share to the small breweries. So they're not very happy with that.
They're not happy, are they?
No, but
it's here and it's not going away.
It's not going away.
It's growing.
It's growing, and it's here to stay.
Yeah, I think so too. So we're going to take a quick break, and when we come back, we're going to talk about the beer trail that's throughout the whole state of Alabama and how you can go to the brewery, Goat Island, and check it out. And also, we want to talk about a recipe that you guys found or someone found locally, and it's just one of their best sellers, Richter's Pilsner. So we'll be back with more of Cullman in the Morning right after this. Welcome back into Cullman in the Morning. With us today, Mike Mullaney's here, representing Goat Island Brewing, and we're talking about how they got started and where they are in the process now. This February, or is it April? April will be 3 years since the brewery has been open, and such exciting times. And you have grown. When you first started, tell us the size of the big tanks.
Well, we're a 30-barrel brew house, which means that when we do brew, we make a little over 1,000 gallons of beer. But that's only the brew day. Then you have to ferment it for 3 to 4 weeks, sometimes 5. So we had 4 fermenters, and then we were able to expand to an additional 30-barrel plus a 60, which is a double. So now, though, we are having to expand again. So
just cut the concrete recently.
Just cut the concrete. It's curing as we speak. And, so by the early 2019, we should have 3 more tanks. These are the big 60-barrel tanks.
Wow.
2 fermenters and a bright tank.
Okay, and that means you will be able to, and we're going to get into that in just a second about the distribution of all the different craft beers, but you will be able to put out how many gallons, roughly?
Well, we should be able to do about 200 barrels per month.
Per month.
With that set up. And then because we cut more brew floor, we'll be able to fairly easily expand from there without any major expenses at that point. Would
you have thought that it would have gone this quick?
Not
this
really.
Fast?
Not really, although we had some plans along these lines.
Right.
You know, we only half believed them, but we're happy that it's growing this fast.
I know you are. Now let's talk about distribution. At one point in time, you were not able to can beer, but now you're able to can. And what do you can?
We can 2 of our fastest growing or best beers that, as far as distribution goes, have done the best. The Richter's Pilsner and the Sipsey River Red Ale.
Okay.
And we have plans to can additional beers, but we do not have a canning line. What we have is a mobile canning unit, a company that comes in and they set up, and we feed our beer into our cans using their equipment. So it keeps us from having to have a big capital outlay until that time that we can say, yep, it's time to bite the bullet.
It's time to do it, yeah. I think that's great that they're able to do that. That helps them and helps you too, to be able to get the product out there. We're going to talk about Richter's Pilsner. Of course, that is one of the ones that they can. The recipe, how did that come about?
Well, John Dean at the time was an insurance salesman, and one of his clients said, I want you to look at something. And it was after the tornado, and they had some damage to a furniture store in town, and they found this this recipe along with some other items, personal items of William Frederick Richter, and it was, sure enough, it was a beer recipe. So.
Isn't that neat? And I think the recipe was actually found inside a wall. Is that correct? Or inside?
Well, it was in with some
pictures
personal,
or something.
And there was a small little packet of other information. So,
okay.
Yeah.
And so now it's ended up being one of their best sellers. So I think that's so neat. Let's talk about John Dean for just a second.
Mm-hmm.
John goes all over the Southeast. Is that correct?
That's right.
So
well, mainly Alabama, Florida, Tennessee, Georgia, but we only distribute in Alabama, and now we've just gotten into the panhandle of Florida.
Okay.
So the only reason John goes to Tennessee is trying to establish a relationship with a distributor, so that we can get into Tennessee area and eventually Georgia. But right now we're Alabama and the panhandle of Florida.
Okay, so see, that's awesome, folks. Within the 3-year time period, they've been able to expand and go into all that area. So if you're going down into the Pensacola, Panama City area, also Gulf Shores, all of that area.
Well, yeah, we've been in Gulf Shores
for a
and
while.
Orange Beach. You know, we have a strong presence there. But yeah, the 30A and Pensacola, Destin, Panama City. We're
all
in
that.
there now.
Auburn University, of course, and I'm sure you're at Alabama.
We are. We have big time at one of the Lusa Brews is one of the places that really we do well at.
That's great.
Several places in Alabama.
Awesome. Well, we're talking about Goat Island Brewing, and of course Mike Mullaney's with us today, and the other founders are Gary Miller and also Brad Glenn and John Dean, and of course everybody has their own little responsibility in their own job, and it's just all coming together very, very well. So from Richter's Pilsner distribution, and then you hope to have the other up and going by mid-spring maybe? When you're actually brewing?
Additional cans, you mean, or
the new brew system?
Oh, right.
You hope to have that up.
We should have those. Actually, the tanks themselves will come in early January, so by February we should be filling them up with beer.
Up and going.
Yeah.
So, how often do you don't come up with a new batch weekly? It's how often? How many weeks?
Yeah, we sometimes brew twice a week.
Oh, you do really? Okay.
Yeah. Depending on the season.
Okay.
Right now things have slowed a little bit, but during the summer we'd brew 3 times a week.
So it doesn't take
sometimes.
6 weeks then to get a good brew?
Well, the way it works is you can brew until you've filled up all your fermenters, and then you have to stop. So as long as you're brewing and at the same time you're emptying one of the tanks into kegs to be sold, then that frees up an empty tank to brew back into.
Okay.
Yeah. So as long as it's turning over, you can keep brewing.
Then you can keep brewing, okay. And the beer trail, very quickly, you guys are on that.
Yes.
And how can we get a copy of
you can come by the brewery, and we've got it. The North Alabama Tourism Association, they have it, but best thing is come by the brewery and get it. And then as you go to the other breweries and get your stamp, then you get some swag.
Okay.
If you do that. So.
Great. So, and let's explain to everybody, of course, the address, but then how to get there by directions.
Sure. 1646 John H. Cooper Drive. It's basically Old Huntsville Highway, past the county jail on the left. And yeah.
Sort of tucked away up on a little hill, right?
That's right.
So easy to find. And the days and the hours?
We are open every day from 2 to 10, except for Sunday. And on the weekends, a lot of times we'll stay open till 11 if we have a nice band in or something like
Right.
that. And there's a big
Food
crowd.
trucks, too.
Yeah.
Typically, you have food trucks there, so or you can bring. That's the neat thing about it. This is very family friendly, and also you can bring your own food. Is that
Oh
correct?
yeah, people bring in food from home, or they'll go and grab takeout and bring it in, or they'll order pizza while they're there. So yeah, there's a lot of
And a lot of kids.
kids running around everywhere.
Dogs, you can bring your dog.
Dog
I don't guess
friendly.
that's changed,
No,
has it? So, Mike, always good to see you. Thank you for what you do, and thanks for having that courage to step out there, because, folks, that had to take a lot of courage and took a lot of money to do it. So, thanks for being with
Well,
us.
thanks for having me.
And, of course, with us today, Mike Mullaney, representing Goat Island Brewing. We'll be back with more of Cullman in the Morning right after this.